everybody. Start our lecture in this morning. Okay, according to our schedule, we will discuss module 5, methods, function, and data passing or parameter passing. Okay, today. So your lecture. The slides are. So if you downloaded your slides a while ago, please downloaded the latest one. Yeah. But hopefully we will go through our slides page by page next week. Today's lecture, as usual, I want to review whatever we discussed in our lecture, and then I will go through basic function, decoration, and function all and statement editor type with another language that I missed, C++ maybe. Okay, after that, we will come back to the slides. And then my goal is to give you a foundation and knowledge of function. Then when you understand the function, I believe it will be easy for us to go through the slides. Quickly, we can go through the slides. So let me give a quick review that what we discussed in our last lecture. Last lecture, we discussed a program with Python, right? Function demo, Python, right? Python or sorry, I discussed Python in another section. Maybe in your section I did not discuss Python. So in Python, other languages like C, C++, Java, and C#, you will see that our program with a main method, with a main class and main method. But in Python, simply you can start a program without a main method. Then in this case, it's assumed that main method is there. Okay, so this is a declaration of a function. So in Python, there is no curly braces to mention function body, but we use indentation, right? So this is the body to main body, function call. So we discussed that is if a function. So in Python, it starts with def keyword, and then this is sum is my function name, and these are in function. We do not need to give parameter type. We do not need to give type, and whatever we assign value at the beginning, first time that variable gets that type automatically. So in this function, it is summing up three variables that are given when this function is called. These are called formal parameters, and these are called argument. These are called actual parameters or argument. So when we call this function, then I am providing first value for first parameter x, second value for second parameter y, and third value for third parameter g. So turning over here, it is printing x plus y plus z equal to result, and this method is also returning result. So we know that if a function returns a value, then that function can be used like a variable, that kind variable. Okay, if a function does not return a value, then we cannot use that function as like a variable. So this function, it returns a value result, so I can use this, for instance, 1 plus something. So that means this function will give us a result, that will return us a result that will be added with 1. Okay. So if so for instance, it is giving me 36. 5 plus 10, 15 plus 20, 35, and plus 1, 36. But this function is just returning its value. So if a function has a value, then that function can be used like a variable. That is the importance of function type, okay? And in Python, if a function does not return a value, then we cannot do like this. In any programming language, we cannot do this. We give an error because so we are trying to use a function like a variable operator, right? Operand like here. So since this function does not return a value, so we cannot do this. We cannot do this, but it's okay to use this one. If a function does not return a value in Python, it says by default it says none. N-O-N. It returns none. Function returns none, then that means it has a return type void. So this function returns nothing. So after that, you see that after returning, calling this function, it is showing none. Okay. That's in Python, but we discuss also in other languages our function. We discuss this function in Java. In Java, our start with a class. This is my main class, and so all function must be declared within the class. So nothing can be declared outside this class. Okay, here similarly, so you see that void method, actually it also returns this point. This is a main method, it returns void. Usually for this kind of program, main method returns any value to the operating system. Function returns value to whom? To its caller, who calls this function. For this case, the main method is called by the compiler, or we can say in general the operating system. Since we are not handling operating system over here, we are not using any system resource, so it doesn't matter if I say C++ is better. It's not matter if we do make it void. Okay, but here for this sum method, it is returning a value. Okay, and today we will discuss what is this modifiers, public and static, shortly. Please take his attention. His attention. Yes. Please give attention to here. Okay. So this is the sum method, and it returns a value x plus y, and it's integer type. So we discussed that this return statement must be related to return type. Okay, so if I say my return type is void over here, then I cannot return any value. Although, so this compiler will throw an error over here, but if I run this program, it definitely will give me an error. Okay, so if I say void, then it will return this is okay. If float type, it should be okay. But it will put a 0.0 at the end of output. But if since my integer value is here, return value is integer, result is integer, it will be automatically converted into float. It's okay. Screen is frozen. Okay, now it's up. Okay. Now today I want to. That's all we discussed in our last lecture. Any questions so far? Okay. In C# Same code we can write in C#, okay? And okay, one thing that we call this main method within some method within println. Okay, this is possible to call according to the structure of print method. You can display this sum method, okay, within print method, as long as this sum method returns a value. If it does not return a value, for instance, if we say void, and then if we say void, then I cannot write this way. Although this compiler is not showing an error here, if I run this program, it should show an error. This is why it is not a good compiler. So I personally like to use Eclipse. If you want to try to write this code in Eclipse, it will show you an error right away. Okay, and that's all we discussed in our last lecture. Now today I want to discuss something more, and one of this I want to first start with a C++ program. Okay, in C++, so this is why we wrote in C like in Java. Okay, same code we wrote in Java. In C++, instead of println, we write cout. People who are taking C++ lab, how many of you are taking C++ lab? Okay, you are familiar with cout, right? Maybe you do like this way, std : you wrote like this way, but I like personally to write this one using namespace std. Then I don't need to type in std whole. Okay, in C++, since C++ is not a complete object-oriented programming language. Actually, C++ is a combination of C and C++. The C part is a procedural language. So it does not start with a class. Okay, so it's like unlike Java, you say Java everything, and Python and C# everything start with class, but C++ does not start with a class. So this is why, for instance, main method C++. Give attention, please. C++ is a little bit different than other languages. I want to discuss. In C++, okay, you see that, and also in Python. If you want to call a, you must declare it beforehand. For instance, if here within my main method, I am trying to call some method, it is showing me an error. The reason is that I declared it after the main method. So that I was supposed to declare this before or above the main method, the caller method. In order to do so, that if my sum method was very large, 1,000 lines, or if I have multiple functions before main methods, then the main function all the way in. Sometimes it is difficult to trace out where is the main method. Okay, in order to avoid that situation, you see that people usually do, we just declare header, a signature of this method beforehand. This is called a signature. I'm telling that by this line, I'm telling the compiler that I will be using a sum method. I will be using name sum that will take two parameters, x and y, and that will return an integer value. That's it. If I tell this to the compiler, then what is I'm fine. I declare my I design or my main method. But without this statement, you will see that it will give me an error. Okay, and C++ by default returns a value, the integer method. If you say main, it should in C++, you should have integer or any main, or if say void main. It's not taking. Okay, it's not taking. Let me see integer. This main method will return a value to what? To home, to operating system. Okay, but this in sum method will return a value to home, to its caller. Who will be caller here? Main method is caller here. So it is important that what value we do return. So if I return here 10, okay, instead of result or x plus y, if I return 10, then what will be my output in this function? Yes, that's good. Every time I return this value, I call this function, it will return me 10, right? Okay. It is showing me 1 0 1 0 1 0 because of I did not put NL. This means end of line. C++ is different than Java. Yeah, it will give me one thing. So instead of returning a fixed value, what should we return? Result, right? So if I return result over here, so then it will return me sum of x plus y. Okay. So this is a way, like in a function, this is called parameters, right? Or argument. One thing, remember that in order to declare an argument, you need to declare data type of each of the argument variable explicitly. So you cannot say have a common type like this. You cannot say like this way. Integer xy. Although in our program we can say that. We can program in our program we can say int a b c d, right? In our program we can say that we are by telling this that we are by writing this we are telling that a b c and d all will be integer type. But here while we use parameter we cannot say that. We have to give explicit data type for each. The reason is that most languages they allow, it is called a concept, it is called function overloading. Through function overloading, we can have multiple functions with same name but with different parameter type or number of parameters. This is why we need to explicitly. Okay, so this program, for instance, in this program we use parameters, okay, but you see that this is not a good program because every time we are adding two fixed numbers. If you develop a calculator that will add only two numbers and the two fixed numbers, two hard-coded numbers, nobody will buy that, nobody will like that. So what do we want to do? We want to have a calculator that for that calculator we want to add any numbers, for instance, right? This is why this is hard coded. Just we give an example. We instead of giving this value for x and y hard coded, we can use other method to take input through keyboard. You know that using scanner, right? Okay, usually we can do that and we will do that whenever needed. This is for example, we made it. Also, these are called hard-coded value, fixed value. Okay. Okay, and then maybe I did not discuss in C#. In C#, it will be simple. This program will be simple. Only instead of simple system.out.println, write console.writeline, right? C# people is same. Everything is same. But let me today, I want to use another compiler. For instance, Eclipse. I like Eclipse because it has some extra advantages of having. Okay. In Eclipse, I just started with, this is a class. Function demo is a class. For instance, this is my main method. Okay. For instance, I want to add two numbers. Say int x and y. Okay. And int sum equal to x plus y. So if I, for simplicity, let me do it x and y. Let me put a hard code. X equal to 10 and y equal to 20. Okay, and I want to print sum of x and y like this way. It will print sum of x plus y. So if I run this program, what it will be showing me? It will be showing, it will show me 10 plus 20 equal to 30. Run this program. It will show me 10 plus equal to 30, right? So here I put fixed to fixed values for x and y. So in computer programming terminology, we call is hard-coded value. Non-computer science people, they will tell us this is fixed value. Fixed values for x and y. But we say hard-coded value. So if we give hard-coded value, then every time if we run these codes, okay, actually if we run this code, if I want to run this code multiple times, one thing we need to do, actually we need to define one time int x, y, and sum. We need to define one time. We cannot define a variable multiple times with same name. Excuse me, in the back. Your computer, please. Okay. So then I need to do this with semicolon. So if I write this code multiple times, for instance like this, if I run this multiple times, if I run these programs, it's called multiple times, right? That it is showing me same thing again and again. So that, for instance, we need to run or execute some codes again and again. Instead of writing this code again and again, what should we do? We declare this code as a function. And in our previous programs, we showed that in normal code IDE or compiler, we wrote our code like declare a method. But in some compilers like Eclipse, we have some advanced feature. For instance, whatever code we want to make as a method, we will select our code. Please give us attention. Yes. Yes. Give your attention here, please. So in Eclipse, we will select our code and take your cursor on the selection place and do right click. See somewhere you will get refactor. Click on refactor and you will see somewhere it says extract method. extract method and give a name of your method, whatever name is you want. You want this name as sum, and that's it. Whatever it says, what kind of access modifier you want to give, public, private, protected. So like there are 4 access modifier. For now, let us keep it private as is, okay? And just click on OK. So you see that compiler does it nicely for us, just in one click, and it created a method, created our code, it enclosed our code, refactored our code within a method named sum, and it was sum over here. Backward engineering, I never tried that. Okay, I will try later and you can try. Let me know. If I select my code, like maybe this, let me try. Can I do unfunction, right? I have a method over here. I want to do function. Inline, what is that inline? Okay, this is delete method declaration. Yes. Okay. He was asking, so I made a method. He said how to use, not to use a method. Okay. Okay. I never did it. Okay, thank you. Something. So my sum method here. Now, life is easy, right? If we use Eclipse. As long as I call this sum method, as many times as I call this sum method, then it will be executed. Okay, but this program, what is doing, this program we have hard-coded value. Always it is adding 10 and 20, right? Not a good program. Nobody will like this, I believe. So what should we can do? Instead of giving this hard-coded value for x and y, what we can do, we have an alternative way to 2 other alternative ways. We can give values for x and y using keyboard. While we run that program, we can give that way. Everybody knows that, right? How to give input using keyboard while running program using system.in scanner. How to take input. I asked you to memorize some code. Okay, you can implement that, or instead of this line, what we can do, 3 ways. One, to give hard-coded value. So I don't like to give hard-coded value so that it does not do the same thing again and again every time. I can declare int x and int y over here. So I need this here again. So in this method, I have x, sum is taking 2 arguments. So this is why it is showing error. So how to fix this error? While calling this method, I have to provide values for x and y. Whatever value I like to add, I will put 200, 300, whatever value I want. So in this program, this function is little bit better than the previous one, right? This one will add whatever value I provide as argument. These are called actual parameters or argument, okay? So then it will do this. This was what we discussed until our last lecture, that we discussed that this void means this method will not return anything. So that if return type is void, then I can have any return statement. Okay, I cannot have any return statement. Okay. I cannot have any return statement. Another thing that if I return any statement, one thing that after return statement, I cannot have any code. Okay. This is a error. So what should I do? I want to return a value. To return a value, I need to change void to something else, for instance, int. Then I want to return sum, for instance. Then if I return sum, then what will be benefited? What benefit I can get from this sum method? Can anyone please tell me? If a function returns a value, yes. One of the benefit is that if a function returns a value, then I can use that function, okay, like a variable. For instance, within this function, this printf function, it takes a value. So I can call this function like this fashion, as well as I can use this function like a variable. If I run this program, you see that if I run this program, I will get output like this. It's a 500. 500 is printing just 500. Okay? It is printing just return value. Or in addition to do I can do, for instance, 100 plus this sum. It is possible that this sum method is returning, so I can use this sum like as an operand. Like what type of operand here I can use? Like an integer type, since my sum is returning an integer value, right? Understand? So without giving this return statement, I cannot use this way. Show you, if I say void over here, then I cannot have this return statement, right? So if I do not have this return statement, you see that, then I cannot do this. Now we understand the effect of having return statement. So your return statement must be compatible with return type over here. So if I return float over here, it is okay, because my final result will be integer, and integer value will be converted into float. So then my result will be showing over here 200 plus 300, 500 plus 100, 600.0. It will show me 600.0. Because my result is return value is float, right? So it is converting integer equal to float. So you understand this? Okay. So using, just we discussed that using some IDE like Eclipse, NetBeans has some advantages. And using that, what we do here sometimes quickly, repl.it. It's not a good compiler. So people who are taking C#. Okay, let me do it. Function demo C#. I cannot give name like this way. So if I want to implement same code in C#, what changes we need to do? We want to implement this code in C#. Let us do this. Let us copy this and get it in C#. almost same. You know that in C# we have main aim is in uppercase. Everything is okay. By the way, we have to define this class within this method within but outside main method. Yeah. If a method can be defined within another method, that is called inline method. We are not discussing that. Okay? So we should define a method outside this one. Today we will discuss also what I mean by public and static. We will discuss that shortly, but let us change this in C#. In C#, we need to change system.out.println into console.writeLine. Okay, and now this will be good if I call this method like same way. It will give me output. Okay, console.writeLine. Let me change this line, and I believe it will give me result. Same thing. I think this is minor difference. Did you notice any difference here? In C#, it did not return me 600.0. Right? But in Java, it returned 600.0, right? 600.0. Converted this. Maybe in C# we need to do explicit typecasting like this. Let me try this. Still it is showing. So however, we discussed so far, we discussed our program with Java and C#, and also we discussed in C++. C++ has a little bit different because, okay, again, people taking C++ lab, you see that in Java and C++, C#, we define a program as a class. We start a program as a class. See that, and we write all of our methods within a class. But in C++, we do not do that. Usually, we can have a program without a class. So this is why, if I want to call a method, it must be declared. Okay, even I do not declare the function in detail, I have to put at least the function signature. This is called function signature. This line will that we will use a function. We will declare a function name sum that will take two integer type argument, then that will return an type argument. Yeah, unless we give this line, it will give us an error message. Okay. So that's what we discussed, and since in object-oriented programming here in C# and Java, we usually use two over here. For instance, public static, or we can say private static. Say we have static or private static, whatever you say. Now let us discuss. These are called access modifiers. Okay, public, and these are static. Okay, I want to discuss this. So you see that on the method we have public and static as well as. Okay, so this private, let us understand private or public. This private is an access modifier that tells us that this float method only be accessible within its own class. Who is its owner class? Function demo is owner class. This function must be called only is callable within any method of this function demo class, which is own class. Okay, but if it is a public method, then this can be accessible from this class as well as from another class. So from after a week, when we discuss class and object, then you will understand this, okay? But for now, maybe just keep public private. So in C++, since I'm not discussing just private C++ now, I'm discussing for Java and C#. So as in C++, we declare this function without any. So this is not applicable here. So maybe in 2 weeks we will start object-oriented programming. When you understand object-oriented programming, then you will understand this. So this private means in C++ and in Java and C#, this private means this method is accessible only by its own class. It's not accessible from outside. But if I make it public or protected, it will be accessible from others outside this class. We will discuss this later. And this static means this function can be called directly. Usual concept of object-oriented programming is that when a class is declared with some methods, and variables, okay, the methods should be called using the class's instance or object. We are not discussing so far object-oriented programming. So in this program, we did not create any object. Okay? So this is why we are calling this program directly by regular fashion. Okay? So this, since we use, in order to do that, we use static. If you do not use static, then I can do this way. Although this compiler is not showing an error, if I run this program, it will show an error. Yes, so we should have static over here. For now, remember that we need static over here. To understand object-oriented programming, then you will understand the importance of static. So here, here, if you get rid of static, then you will see that it will show me an error. Static means, actually, we will discuss this later. Static means this class, this function is a member, global member of its class. Okay, this is an alert. Test for Kansas State University emergency alert system. This is just a test, okay? You don't need to go outside, right? That's good. Okay. So we understand public. This is public and static. These are modifier, access modifier. Okay. So far, anybody has any questions so far? So if you understand this, then this will be our starting point for our next 2 lectures. Okay. If we understand this, then it will be easy for me to go ahead with our lecture slide, page by page. And I think once we have that knowledge, then we will see that in our next lecture, we will go to the slide and view the slides. We will understand everything. It should be clear. And your task is this. I want to give you a task. Before you come to your next lecture, just download this lecture. And if you understand, go through this slides, try to understand as many as you can. Don't spend too much time. If you don't understand anything, take a note and bring your question to us in our next lecture. But for our next lecture, I see that we will discuss this, and we will see that our discussion will be easier. And then within the next 2 lectures, we want to wrap up and finish all of this. Okay, and so far whatever we discussed, I believe we got our foundation of how to use a function, how to call a function, how to create a function. As understand the foundation, that actually you know that later we can have our function, many functions. A function can be larger and larger. The foundation that how to declare a function, how to call a function, how to return something from a function, and how that return value to another function. Any questions so far? Okay, so this should be a good starting for us to discuss more about function. We will go from here in our next lecture. Thank you so much, everybody. Yes.
It's been over 2 weeks and I still haven't.
Did you not get your test score back? Do you have a computer?
I've checked already. It's been over 2 weeks. This Friday would be 3 weeks.
Let me see.